that the ranks of the enemy were broken through, and they fled in all directions. Richard and his men then rushed on to the gates of the town, and almost before the Saracens who were in possession of them could recover from their surprise, the gates were seized, those who had been stationed at them were slain or driven away, and then Richard and his troops, rushing through, closed them, and the Saracens that were within the town were shut in. They were soon all overpowered and slain, and thus the possession of the town was recovered. But this was not the end, as Richard and his men knew full well. Though they had possession of the town itself, they were surrounded by a great army of Saracens, that were hovering around them on the plain, and rapidly increasing in numbers, for Saladin had sent orders to the interior directing all possible assistance to be sent to him. Richard himself, on the other hand, was hourly expecting the arrival of the main body of his troops by land. They arrived the next day, and then came on the great contest. Richard's troops on their arrival attacked the Saracens from without, while he himself, issuing from the gates, assaulted them from the side next the town. The Crusaders fought with the utmost desperation. They knew very well that it was the crisis of their fate. To lose that battle was to lose all. The Saracens, on the other hand, were not under any such urgent pressure. If overpowered, they could retire again to the mountains, and be as secure as before. They were overpowered. The battle was fought long and obstinately, but at length Richard was victorious, and the Saracens were driven off the ground. Various accounts are given by the different writers who have narrated the history of this crusade, of a present of a horse made by Saladin to Richard in the course of the war, and the incident has been often commented upon as an evidence of the high and generous sentiments which animated the combatants in this terrible crusade in their personal feelings toward each other. One of the stories makes the case an incident of this battle. The Saracens, flying from the field, came to Saladin, who was watching the contest, and in conversation with him they pointed out Richard, who was standing among his knights on a small rising ground. "Why, he is on foot!" exclaimed Saladin. Richard was on foot. His favourite charger, Fauvel, was killed under him that morning, and as he had come from Acre in haste and by sea, there was no other horse at hand to supply his place. Saladin immediately said that that was not as it should be. "The King of England," said he, "should not fight on foot like a common soldier." He immediately sent over to Richard, with a flag of truce, 2 splendid horses. King Richard accepted the present, and during the remainder of the day he fought on one of the horses, which his enemy had thus sent him. One account adds a romantic embellishment to this story by saying that Saladin sent only one horse at first, the one that he supposed most worthy of being sent as a gift from one sovereign to another, but that Richard, before mounting him himself, directed one of his knights to mount him and give him a trial. The knight found the horse wholly unmanageable. The animal took the bits between his teeth and galloped furiously back to the camp of Saladin, carrying his rider with him, a hopeless prisoner. Saladin was exceedingly chagrined at this result. He was afraid Richard might suppose that he had sent him an unruly horse from a treacherous design to do him some injury. He accordingly received the knight who had been borne so unwillingly to his camp in the most courteous manner, and providing another horse for him, he dismissed him with presents. He also sent a second horse to Richard, more beautiful than the first, and one which he caused Richard to be assured that he might rely upon as perfectly well trained. Chapter 19.